Welcome to the Hub of Champions, part of Believe Network. I am Shukri Wright. Be sure to subscribe, comment, rate, and follow the podcast and tell all the Boston sports fans to do the same. You can watch us on Believe TV around the country in airports and on YouTube. Read the top Believe stories at si.com and follow us across our Believe socials. How is everybody doing on this Feel Good Monday, in which that it was a big weekend in New York? It was a big weekend for the Boston Red Sox. The Boston Red Sox, ladies and gentlemen, are for real. They are a playoff team in 2024 as it currently stands. They're in playoff positioning. We'll see how the season ends, of course. But right now on July 8th, the Boston Red Sox are in that third American League wildcard spot, coming hard for that second wildcard spot in the American League. The Red Sox took care of business in the manner in which that they needed to over the weekend, taking 2 out of 3, in which that the Red Sox won on Sunday Night Baseball 3-0. A shutout for the Red Sox and another gem by Red Sox starting pitching, Cutter Crawford. Shout out baseball, Rafael Devers. More on him a little later on in the pod. But the Red Sox, without question, sent a very loud statement to the New York Yankees, and that is this Red Sox team in 2024, as much as you may roll your eyes and turn the other cheek and scoff at them with disgust, this is a team that can contend and that can compete with the big boys of the American League. You saw it again this past weekend when the Red Sox are given an opportunity. They're taking advantage of it. There's no other way to put it. And with the exception of Saturday, which was an absolute cluster bleep, if you will, because it was the Ben Rice show, 3 homers. Outside of that, we've had a pretty good weekend for the Boston Red Sox. So when you are looking at this Red Sox team in terms of how do you evaluate them now that we're past the halfway mark of the regular season, this Red Sox team has given you reason to believe that this team could be in the playoffs come October. In fact, if you're a Red Sox fan, you should be believing that this Red Sox team is a playoff team and will be a playoff team come September when they clinch that American League wildcard spot. But I also want to take it another step further as well. And I think it's important to mention that when you look at the Boston Red Sox and what they've been able to do, you look at the pitching staff. And I talked about this on Friday's episode, by the way. The pitching staff is finally coming back into its own. And the evidence of that, you saw it again last night with the performance of Cutter Crawford and the way that he was trading zeros through the first 6 innings with Yankee starter Luis Hill. That should furthermore cement your belief that when this Red Sox pitching staff is rolling, this pitching staff is actually pretty good. I said this in a different episode that the Red Sox pitching staff was actually among baseball's best before it hit that skid where the pitching rotation struggled. But what you're seeing over the last week and a half, 2 weeks now, is this rotation giving you consistent outing, a consistent outing, and consistent outing. You like the consistency what you're getting now from Nick Pivetta, from Tanner Houck, what you're also getting from Brian Bale, who has been better of late, Cutter Crawford, who turned in another gem last night. And then not to mention, the Red Sox bullpen overall has been solid. It's been sturdy. It has done its job. And with all of that being said, in terms of the pitching, offensively, you are watching Jarren Duran become an absolute all-star, which he officially is now. With all of that being said, how do you feel about the Red Sox, especially as we get closer to the July 30th trade deadline? And that is going to be the crux of what I want to talk about over the next several minutes during this first segment of the podcast, because it was a big talking point in Boston today as to what the Red Sox should do come the trade deadline. And in case if you didn't watch or hear, Craig Breslow was asked by Carl Ravitch, the voice of Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, about the Red Sox plans at the trade deadline. Are they going to be buyers? Are they going to be sellers? Or are they going to stand pat? Craig Breslow basically gave the answer of, we're not sure what we're going to do. We have to think about it. I'm paraphrasing what he said. And that in itself, when I heard it live, I saw it live, by the way. When I saw that, my thought was, I'm not exactly sure what else do the Boston Red Sox need to do in order to convince you to invest, but they have done everything right up until this point. They deserve to be rewarded. This is the equivalent of you being in a relationship with your significant other, and they have done everything right. They have been absolutely amazing in terms of character, in terms of what they put on the table, in terms of like what they've invested into their relationship. They want a return on their investment. Craig Breslow has been in a relationship with the Boston Red Sox since last fall. Almost a year now, by the way. This is his first full season. The Boston Red Sox fans and the team want a return on their investment. They have played good baseball. They have been solid for the last several weeks now. These next 3 weeks are going to be critical for this Red Sox team in terms of what direction they're going to go at this upcoming trade deadline. But at the bare minimum, they deserve to have some sort of additions or moves made to help bolster the roster. You don't want to be the person in this relationship where you are disgruntled because you're not getting the proper return on your investment into this relationship, and you don't want this to be a one-sided affair, because that's exactly the danger that Craig Breslow and John Henry is playing, that kind of dangerous game where it could actually potentially get to if they are not careful with the decision that they make, because that's where we are now. What more do you need to see from this Boston Red Sox team in order to convince you that they are contenders, not pretenders? What more do you need to see in order for you to realize that the Boston Red Sox in 2024 are worthy of being invested in? I'm not saying that you got to go out and you got to go make the sexy trade or pickup at the trade deadline, but make moves that put your team in a proper position to be able to compete come October. You don't need much examples as to what a wildcard team could do come October. We just saw it as baseball fans. We just saw it last October. Go look at the World Series. That was last October. The Arizona Diamondbacks and the Texas Rangers. Both teams were wildcard teams, ladies and gentlemen, and they both made it to the World Series. The Texas Rangers won the World Series. Why? Because the front office, including Chris Young, they went out and they made deals and they made signings that helped this team get over the mountaintop. Even though that the Rangers last year, they got off to such a great start, being the best team in baseball the first few months, but went into that horrendous slide after the All-Star break, which ended them up in the wild card spot, by the way. It was their investment that ultimately propelled that team to becoming world champions. The Boston Red Sox are in that position. Don't let the idea of the fact of them being a wild card team right now delude you into thinking that this team can't do any sort of damage in October. Let's not be foolish. We just saw it last October that the wild card teams, two of them, by the way, both made it to the World Series, one out of each American League and National League. The Boston Red Sox, if they make the investment, go out and actually show that you can compete come October and you're worthy of investing in, show them that you actually give a damn. Because I do believe it will be a colossal mistake on the front office of the Boston Red Sox to not make any sort of move at all, to stand pat. Why? For the sake of payroll flexibility? Is this what it is? I mean, because I'm gonna be honest with you, Boston. I'm gonna be honest with you, New England and Boston sports fans. I actually want the Red Sox to go out and make moves that's gonna put this team in a position to be a World Series contender. Because as we just saw last October, any team that gets in has a chance to win it all. And you're worried about payroll flexibility? Save that BS for someone else. This is the year to actually go for it. Because if you remember, 2 years ago, the Red Sox, they were right there, even though there were doubters, and even clearly the front office, which included Bloom at the time, they didn't believe in this team. And it showed in that clubhouse as to why the Red Sox went on an absolute downward slide in the second half of the 2022 season. This team is firmly a playoff team as it currently stands. Not just based on the standings, that although that has part to do with it, obviously. But if you've watched the games and you've watched this 2024 Red Sox team with the pitching and what you've been able to get offensively as well from this team, which has been good enough on most nights, there's very little reason to believe that this team is not worthy of being invested in. What more do you need to see? You've seen more than enough. I've seen more than enough. Your starting rotation is starting to look like how it looked in the first month of the season, the first month and a half of the regular season. Your bullpen has been solid. Kelly Jansen has been solid. And then offensively, I like what I've seen from Jared Duran. I like what I've seen from Rafael Devers. I mean, no shocker. He was named to the All-Star team yet again. No surprise there, and deservedly so. And you got to like what you've seen in terms of the contribution that they've gotten from their role players as well. So if you're the Boston Red Sox, if you're the front office, what else do you need to see in order for you to be convinced that this team is worthy of being invested in? Please, I'd like to know. Because my good buddy Jared Carabas of the Session Tim podcast, he said it best. What else do you possibly need to see? Like, what the F are we doing here? Because I'm at that point now where I'm willing to say out loud, if the Red Sox do not make a move, and let's say the Red Sox over the next 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, they continue to play solid baseball, they continue to win, and they climb up in the standings, this team is going to put pressure on the front office. And if they don't invest in this team, understand that the dissent among fans is going to increase already even more, because it's already there in Boston. Red Sox fans are already disgusted with ownership. They're disgusted with the front office. Do you really want to risk even more alienating whatever fans that are showing up to the games? Because last time I checked, a lot of the fans at Fenway Park at these games this season, it's not packed with all Red Sox fans. You realize that, right? The opposing road teams are flooding into Fenway. Go back and you look at the Phillies Red Sox series. That ballpark was filled with majority of Philly fans. Go back and look at the Yankees Red Sox series. There were obviously a lot of Red Sox fans there, but there was a healthy amount of Yankee fans who were also in the ballpark as well. The point being that if you want to alienate the very few people who still hold out hope that you are going to do right by this team, I hope you are ready to deal with the public scorn that's going to come with that, because it's coming. So if you're the Boston Red Sox, don't stand pat. actually show you give a damn, because I think there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more for the Red Sox to lose if they don't invest in this team. Because obviously, there's the big question mark surrounding Alex Cora. Is he going to be back next season? Because this is his final year of his current contract. And you don't invest in this team, and this team has been playing as well as it's been playing, don't be surprised if Alex Cora decides that, you know what, I'm going to go else, somewhere else to manage. Why should I stay here and manage a team in which that's being run by a front office and ownership that doesn't give a rat's ass? They're not committed to winning. That's basically another reason why the Red Sox front office should, in fact, invest in this team. But I don't blame Alex Cora's disdain or disapproval of how the owner and front office has handled things over the last few seasons. I don't blame him at all whatsoever. So there's a lot riding on the Boston Red Sox as we get closer. We're now 3 weeks away from the trade deadline. There's a lot riding on this team in terms of the potential ramifications if this team, front office and owner, does not do anything at the trade deadline to help this team make a push for the postseason, and as well as Alex Cora. What happens there? Because those are two very real topics that you are going to have to address. And it's going to be fun to watch. Coming up next, we have Big Papi number 2. Oh, yeah. David Ortiz may not be walking through the doors of Fenway Park anytime soon, but don't worry. There's a new Big Papi in town. I'm going to tell you exactly who that is. Coming up next here on the Hub of Champions podcast with your host, Shukri Wrights. Welcome back to the Hub of Champions podcast with your host, Shukri Wrights, wherever you may be, however you may be listening, whether it be on Sirius XM Radio, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts, and for those of you that are watching on YouTube as well, where you can watch it, and as well as on Believe TV. I appreciate you listening and watching the podcast as well. Don't forget to subscribe, download, and tell all the Boston sports fans to check out the work that I do on the Hub of Champions with your host, Shukri Wrights. And as well as follow me on social media, by the way. Can't forget about that. Excuse me. Follow me on Twitter at Shukri Wrights, blue check mark. Follow me on TikTok at Shukri Wrights. Follow me on Instagram at SWrightsRadio_. That's where you can follow me on social media. So as I teased going into the break, there is a new Big Papi in town. And yes, I know that there's only one Big Papi. That's David Ortiz, like the Hall of Famer and what. I get that. But there is a new sheriff in town, right? Especially when it comes to the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry. You realize that, right? I hope so. Because that guy is Rafael Devers. That guy is him. And it is incredibly amazing if you're a Red Sox fan to say, but painful if you're a Yankee fan to say this. But that man has done more damage in recent years as a member of the Boston Red Sox than what David Ortiz did in the first few years in the regular season. I'm going to emphasize this for a reason. David Ortiz's damage against the Yankees was in October, and rightfully so. His damage was done in October. He did have his moments in the regular season. Make no mistake about that. But what Rafael Devers is doing is nothing short of incredible. I mean, my goodness. Seriously, it's absurd. It truly is absurd for a man who just he just got his 1,000th hit the other day on Saturday, as a matter of fact, against the Yankees. I mean, seriously. I mean, my God. And also, oh, by the way, Rafael Devers has 16 home runs in 57 career games at Yankee Stadium, which is the most out of any visiting player since the start of the 2017 season. Insane. Absolutely insane. Like Red Sox fans would say that Yankee Stadium, the new one, the new edition, is more of a bandbox than it is a real ballpark and whatnot because it's not as spacious, let's say, in comparison to Oracle Park in San Francisco, or even Dodger Stadium, which is more, both of which I say they're both more pitcher friendly and more than anything else. But seriously, the fact that Rafael Devers has done as much damage in the Bronx against the Yankees in comparison to David Ortiz, and that's no shot at David Ortiz, says a lot. It says a lot because Rafael Devers, we all know how special he is. Like he's a guy who can hit for power to all fields. You see it all the time. Him going to left field as a left-handed hitter, driving the ball out of the ballpark out to left field. That in itself is something that he's been doing since he got called up. It doesn't even surprise anybody. It doesn't even surprise me anymore because I've seen it so much now ever since he got called up to the major leagues. And what you've seen from Rafael Devers this entire weekend was again another showcase as to what you're seeing from Rafael Devers is someone who, even though he doesn't like the phrase or the title, but he's the face of the Boston Red Sox. He's carrying the mantle of I'm going to be the biggest pain in the ass to the New York Yankees, the way that David Ortiz once upon a time was. He is the new Big Papi right now. Rafael Devers has literally made Garrett Cole his son. Garrett Cole can't do anything but call Rafael Devers his daddy. Remember how Pedro Martinez in 2004, when he said at old Yankee Stadium, I can't do anything but, tip my hat and call the Yankees my daddies. The Yankees can call Rafael Devers their daddies because it's beyond clear at this point that Rafael Devers, not only did he learn from David Ortiz, not only did he learn from David Ortiz, but he also clearly paid attention as to what it means to make your mark in this Yankees Red Sox rivalry. Something that Devers has done repeatedly, time and time and time again. I'll always remember that seminal moment back in 2017 when Rafael Devers drove an Aroldis Chapman fastball in the top of the ninth inning with the Yankees leading in that game on Sunday Night Baseball, and seeing him drive that ball out into left field to tie the game. And I saw my guy Joseph McFly, the Dominican Yankee fan who went viral at that Red Sox Yankee game at Yankee Stadium. I remember that moment. That moment is always going to be burned in my memory. Because moments like that in New York on the biggest stage of them all at Yankee Stadium, those moments live on. Regular season or postseason, obviously even more so in October, but the regular season, just as much. And Rafael Devers has done more than his fair share to ingratiate himself into the hearts of Red Sox Nation. I mean, Devers, him getting named to the All-Star game again this season, doesn't surprise anybody. What he's doing, being the highest paid Boston Red Sox player right now, surprises nobody. Like, you don't ever see Devers show up to the ballpark and not have a smile on his face. Like, I mean, like seriously. And here's the amazing part about all of this as well. There's only, I think, 4 or if not 5 players who have hit more home runs than Devers on the road against the Yankees. David Ortiz and Ted Williams have hit 30 each. Carl Yastrzemski has hit 24, Jim Rice 22, Manny Ramirez 18. 18. I mean, my goodness. And then also, by the way, Rafael Devers, he has had 28 homers against the Yankees, which is the most against any opponent in his career. So, yeah, Rafael Devers owns the Yankees the way that David Ortiz once did once upon a time. So those numbers back up my point that when you own a team, it don't matter where, it don't matter what the stage is. It can be in London for all I care. Remember 5 years ago? It can be in London. You are going to carry the big stick and ready to swing it at any given point because guess what? I am that dude, Papi. I am that dude. That's exactly who and what Rafael Devers is. He is the new Big Papi for this generation of Boston Red Sox baseball. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Sugar Rights Podcast, not the Sugar Rights Podcast, but the Hub of Champions Podcast. Sorry. With your host, Shukri Wrights. Subscribe, download, and rate the podcast wherever you listen and watch it. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of the Hub of Champions Podcast with your host, Shukri Wrights. I'll talk to you again next time. Take care, everybody. Peace.